to record there we go, recording in progress. So welcome back for those of you who joined us the first time, and welcome back to Alice, who's going to take us down the WikiSource lane, part 2. And I think I'm going to just hand it over to Alice. Take it away.
You're handing over to the woman of few words. Please confirm that you can hear me. I have a very tricky handset. So if you can confirm that you can hear me.
Hear you loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Okay. I've even been practicing my English for this, Ingrid. So, good afternoon, everybody, and you are very welcome to our second part of introducing WikiSource for librarians. I am grateful that you have been able to spare some time. I understand it's lunchtime, there are competing interests. People need to do lots of things, but you have spared time. But I'm also happy to see names that are familiar. And this is no favoritism, but I recognize that Elizabeth Mdlongwa is here. And a year or two ago, I was teaching a class that had African librarians contributing to structured data, and that class had 2 cohorts, and Elizabeth was actually the best performing student for the second cohort. So when you see her, guys, she's a big deal. But now we move on. There'll be time to sing other people's praise. So Elizabeth, I'm just glad to see you, and everybody else. I think there are other names, but hers really stands out. So back to business. It's November 2024, and here we are with the second part of WikiSource. And today, I do not think that we'll be here for long. So let me start with our slides for the day. So we'll just do a recap from our previous session. We looked at what is WikiSource, the projects it supports. We'll just do a recap of the policies of WikiSource, as well as the criticisms and shortcomings of WikiSource. And then we will move on to how South Africa, as a country, as a nation, how its literary heritage, how its publication heritage and history is actually represented on WikiSource. Then we'll look a little bit at the WikiSource interface, and then we will revisit the opportunities that are there for librarians. So just to briefly revisit our previous sessions, we acknowledge that WikiSource is one of the 13, now 14 projects of the Wikimedia Foundation, and it caters specifically to primary sources that have been digitized. And we saw that it has only primary sources, original materials, books, articles, documents, manuscripts. We also saw that everything that is in there is either on the public domain or freely licensed, so that it can allow unrestricted access. Remember, the vision and the mission of the Wikimedia Foundation is for us to imagine a world in which every person has free access to knowledge. And then we also saw that the content on WikiSource is always by default digitized and transcribed. So you have scanned or typed out texts. Even if it is a song, there is a transcription of it. And then it has its birthday on 24th November in a few days. And the initial plan was to provide a free repository for source texts that could support verifiability in projects, especially Wikipedia, not just like Wikipedia, and also host these free texts in as many languages and translations. As of September, there were subdomains for 79 languages, of which 77 are active and 2 are closed. And of the active sites, we had at least 6 0.1 million articles, and those that had been deregistered or closed had only 13 in between them. So we also saw that there are more than 4.8 million registered users, but only 2,500 of those are active. So for those who can do the maths, that is a very, very discouraging number. And then we looked at how WikiSource supports the other projects of the Wikimedia Foundation. And we saw that for Wikipedia, it provides texts for articles, and Wikipedia articles often link to WikiSource texts. When we move on to dictionary, which is the repository for words, WikiSource text can be used to illustrate how a word is used, and definitions also, because remember, things are transcribed, digitized and transcribed. Then for Wikidata, WikiSource provides metadata, metadata about a publication. For example, this was the publisher, this is where it was published, this is which edition, that sort of thing, but also about the author, especially in the preface and in the footnotes. Then for Wikimedia Commons, which it works with, very closely related, that is the major stop, that is the airport. Everything we import or bring into WikiSource has its first station as Wikimedia Commons. So whether you're bringing something from the Hathi Trust, whether you're bringing something from the Wellcome Trust, whether your text or whatever it is you have selected to work on is coming from the Internet Archive, its first station is going to be Wikimedia Commons. After that, we can then bring everything into WikiSource. And also for books or things that have images, normally we have the images in in Wikimedia Commons, and we can then embed or import them into WikiSource texts. We have Wikiquote. The text can be used to verify quotes on Wikiquote. And then we have Wikibooks. So those who are interested in academia can use WikiSource texts for Wikibooks and can link them. And then there's Wikiversity, and there are learning resources in WikiSource that can be incorporated into Wikiversity. Then we looked at the policies and the results, and we noticed that WikiSource in general, regardless of how big or wide it gets, has our conduct, our contribution. Most of the things that we do on WikiSource are governed by 3 policies. There's the copyright policy, there's the neutral point of view, and there's the inclusion policy. So under the copyright policy, things like fair use are not allowed. Things have to be in the public domain. Things have to be under the CC by Share Alike 4.0 Creative Commons license, so that there is unrestricted access. And under the copyright policy, some of the benefits are it balances the need to make knowledge accessible with the need to respect the rights of the creators and the authors. So if they have not yet put this out for your consumption, then let them enjoy it. Then the copyright policy also helps us avoid legal issues. Adhere to international copyright laws, of which many of our countries are signatories to, and also provides clear guidelines to both you and I in order to support the growth of the public domain in our respective communities. Then the neutral point of view is exactly what it is. Do not add, do not include, or do not exclude things that want there, like just present things in a balanced way. So if you are transcribing something, please transcribe it as it is, because that if you insert words or meanings or things that you actually attribute to what it is that you think it should be there, it then tampers with the integrity of the final production. So the neutral point of view helps us to maintain credibility and reliability of the content that we see on WikiSource, and also helps us demonstrate a commitment to ethical standards, especially in this era of disinformation and misinformation. And then with the inclusion policy, it ensures that the library is now WikiSource, contains high quality, freely accessible texts that contribute to the public domain and support research. So with the inclusion policy, it is normally driven by community consensus. What can be included on WikiSource? What is actually excluded? And even if it is to be included, what considerations can be made under the inclusion policy? So most of the things that you see on WikiSource revolve around these policies. And these policies are also purpose-built to cater for expansion of the site when this will eventually, unfortunately, happen. So I would now like to move on to the bit of how we are represented as South Africa on WikiSource. So we talked about the languages, but we did not talk about the content. And how you are represented at times is reflective of the people who are speaking on your behalf. It is reflective of the culture and the norms that are in your country. It represents the heritage in your country. It stands for a lot. And at times, going by how some countries are represented on some projects, you can mistakenly make some assumptions like, you mean there are no publishers in South Africa? You mean their history of literacy is this low? You mean there are no kinds of this author in South Africa? So I would like, as we move on in our journey in WikiSource, one, to make informed decisions, and these informed decisions can be made by identifying gaps. And how are we going to do that? We are going to look at how we are represented as a nation, how our literary heritage is presented or represented on WikiSource. So we talked about the languages. Now, I wish to correct myself. When they talk about the 77 or the 79 language subdomains, they actually mean languages that have their own independent domain on WikiSource. The rest of us whose languages do not have a long history of writing, a rich history of publishing, public domain, and all that kind of thing, we are put under multilingual WikiSource. And it is a WikiSource edition for languages that do not have their own dedicated WikiSource domain. Yeah. So obviously they are all represented by www, then WikiSource, and then the language. And under that, let me see if I can get the statistics right. Under multilingual WikiSource, I saw that of all the languages that are written, spoken, published in South Africa, only 2 are represented on WikiSource, and that is Afrikaans and isiZulu. But these are the combined statistics, yeah? There are very few pages. I think there are only 982 contributors or something. I'll get those statistics right. But only Afrikaans and isiZulu are on multilingual WikiSource. And why? It could be that there's no critical mass of content that can help them lay a claim. It could also be historical factors that, listen, we started writing in this language, but we started late. So most of those texts are probably not in the public domain, or they are under copyright or some sort of thing. So out of all the languages in South Africa, only 2 are represented, and not just represented, they are lumped in there with many other languages. So you have to be looking for it to see it. So under Afrikaans, let's look at the content. Obviously, it's represented by its language domain, AF. And then if you click on this, there's main page Afrikaans, and then there are only 267 pages on Afrikaans WikiSource. And then isiZulu only has 35 pages. So whatever has been digitized or transcribed, they are all in there. They are either 267 or 35. But I'm sure you have written and published or still have these things in your archives that are in the public domain that are not only these 2 languages. So this is what the main page for Afrikaans WikiSource looks like. It gives you the language code, it gives you the English name, the Wikidata category, and it tells you the amount of content that is there. I will share this presentation after here so you can follow these links and see and be able to corroborate this information. And like any other wiki source, it will need for you to log in with your main Wikimedia account. Remember, you don't have to have separate accounts, and therefore begin contributing in that specific language. And then with isiZulu, this is how it looks aesthetically. There's the ISO code, and we see it only has 35 languages. These are the ones that have been, 35 pages. These are some of the 2 texts that have been digitized and transcribed. But what was even more disappointing is the digitization had been done by organizations out of South Africa. And they were like, yeah, let us give back, it is our Christian duty. So that is how we are represented on these platforms. And then there are categories. Now I have switched back to English WikiSource, because one of the things that contributes to the little content in the language WikiSources is that the content that how can I say, that fits within the inclusion criteria might not necessarily be in that respective language. So there are categories, and there's a category called South Africa on English WikiSource. And there are 13 subcategories. There's a subcategory for authors, book dash, books that have been banned in South Africa, a history of South Africa, the law, marriage, presidents, biographies of people from South Africa, cities, travel, international treaties in which the nation has been involved, the union, and the universities. Now you see 2C, 79p, and that sort of thing. So 2C means if you click on South African authors, under it you will see 2 categories. And under those categories, 79 pages. That is basically how it is interpreted. Under book dash, you have 7 pages. Under books that have been banned, 1 page, but I think there are many more. So I moved on to the pages and said, okay, let us see the 79, but then it gave me 70. So I looked at the books, and these are some of the books. Obviously dominated by Security Council resolutions. Yeah. For those who are researching in geopolitics, international relations, and all that. And then these are some of the pages that have been there. But I think your literary heritage is it's richer than this. So this is how we are represented. And the challenge to you and me is to find out why we are thankful that the representation is there, but you and I will have to agree that it is under representation because of a number of factors. And as librarians, what are these factors and how can we mitigate some of this? It could even be as simple as this thing is lying somewhere in storage. Nobody has ever looked at it, yeah? So these are some of the things that we have to inspire ourselves to think about and come up with solutions, and not to prove our usefulness, but to contribute to the wealth of information and make these resources discoverable. Are there any questions before I proceed?
Okay, I had actually just popped in the chat. So South African English would fall under English, but you've actually answered that question, because it does. Yeah. I'm
What is South African English? How does
no,
it
no. No, so the South African English literature, or
Mm.
is
It's put
would
under
fall
English
it
WikiSource.
it would be put under English. It's just as if we were contributing an article on
Mm.
Wikipedia. I mean, in English, it falls under the big English umbrella. So that's yeah. I didn't actually realize this, Alice. I don't know. Hope colleagues. I don't know if you want to put your hand up, or something to make a comment. Um, Please, feel free. I'm kind of going like an only so Afrikaans and isiZulu are the only other two South African languages on WikiSource.
Yes.
There must be, but there are other languages. So yeah.
They are the only languages from South Africa that are represented on Wikisource that have some form of content.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, colleagues, does anyone have any comments or anything like that? If you want to stick your hand up and make a comment, before Alice then moves on to the next section, which is, oh, I see Teresa's put her hand up, so I'm going to just hand mute myself and hand over to her to comment. But yeah, I can see there's lots of work for us, lots of possibilities.
Hi, thank you, Ingrid. Thank you, Alice. This is very interesting and informative. Yeah, I'm very disappointed and embarrassed as a representative for the Sesotho language that there is no page for Sesotho. There's only Afrikaans and Zulu. So how does one get involved? Where would one get started in order to maybe create a page for Sesotho language? And if I recall way back, Ingrid, I think Ingrid wrote us into something. Maybe it wasn't WikiSource, but we were busy. I remember even Matiti was involved and we were doing, was it translation or something, but some involvement on some of the wiki stuff. So I was looking with keen interest to see if maybe there is a page for Sesotho language, but unfortunately not on WikiSource. So I'm quite keen and interested in being involved in that language of mine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for those comments. So let me see if I can answer. The truth is there's an opportunity and potential for very many of our languages to be represented on WikiSource. You see, but the same policies that allow us to engage with the interface at times might not work in our favor. I was looking at the history of Afrikaans WikiSource and how it came into being. And the appeal had been made as far back as 29, and they had to say things like, we have these X number of speakers, we already have existing publications. And even after making that case, only 289 things represented. So the process, there is some bureaucracy involved, but it's also fairly simple. I will share the contacts of who to engage with the WikiSource user group that can help this come to fruition. And then it will also require a certain minimum number. Because you can't say, I'm starting Soto WikiSource, but I only have one book. You will need a minimum of at least, 2 or 3 books, anything larger than one, so that there's critical mass. And then we also have the bits that come with activating the translation, comparison with the OCR tool and embedding it, seeing that it is giving us accurate transcripts, things like how does it cater for special characters and that sort of thing. But there is hope, Elizabeth. Not Elizabeth. Oh, yes. But I will be sharing the contacts for the people who can help you, and then you can take this forward as an opportunity. You can lay the foundation for that. Okay, so now we move on to the WikiSource interface. I'm going to, how can I say? I'm going to demonstrate using English WikiSource. So please bear with me. So you see, much as English is active, there are less than 1 million texts in it. So if you type www.en.wikisource.org, this is what you see. But you could also type wikisource.org and let us see. It will give us that universal globe that we know. And then it will tell us we can pick which language. So whichever way you decide to approach it, this is where it is, yeah? So these are some of the languages you can look at for them through here.
Oh, Alice, I saw an easy Xhosa there. So if you go down next to isiZulu,
Oh, my
yes,
people have been
yes.
caught out. Oh,
Okay.
so that means
Alice,
you didn't lie
Alice.
when you said, this means you didn't lie when you said you pay attention to detail, eh? I have been found out, you people. Forgive me. So yes, Xhosa is also represented. Let us see what it looks like. Okay, let us see if there's any content. 27. My people. Okay, so these are the pages. Someone was despairing in the comment section. I hope your hope is restored. So this is what is there under Xhosa WikiSource. So ignore those slides. They will be updated. So this is what the interface looks like. You can always check it out on your own, but I will demonstrate using the English one. And with the English one, it looks like this. And now we want to engage with it. We can peruse through it, but if you say that I want to transcribe, I want to validate, I want to add something, I want to improve, I want to take away something, you will need an account. So I'll just log in to make things easier for demonstration. Oh. Okay. And it gives you the standard features, your username, your talk page, your contributions, and everything. I know that not all of us have accounts on any of the Wikimedia projects, but this is going to be our reality soon. So this is the main page, and some of the things that you see on the main pages are a featured text, which you and I can contribute to in the event of the month. Then it even tells us which formats we can download it after it has been after it has been transcribed. It shows us new texts that have come onto WikiSource. Obviously, they were first put in Wikimedia Commons, but now they are available to us in WikiSource to transcribe and validate. Then it shows current collaborations. There's the monthly challenge, which all of us as editors are invited to in order to contribute what we can by proofreading. But then there's also the current proofread of the month. Then there are highlights, yeah? And then you can do your own exploration here by era, by nationality, by type. You know how we normally categorize information, yeah? So you could be looking for specific information as informed by a certain theme. Today is a market day. There's a lot of noise behind me. And then for this page, there's the community portal where you can engage. It's like a village square or an indaba where you can engage with the community. But more than that, you can see the linkage to other Wikimedia projects. Remember, it's one of 14. You can look at the policies and the guidelines. There are so many things that you can see on the community page. You can see the mailing list. You can see the Discord server, the space on Matrix, those who are in those spaces, yeah? And this is the community portal. Obviously, you have to be, you can consume information when you are not logged in, but to be able to contribute, you have to be logged in. And then there is the, I don't know if we looked through the site index, but that is what it shows us, yeah? Works and authors. All these are things you can explore on your own, independently as part of self-learning. And then there's the editing interface, but you know, someone will say, what do I edit? So I'm just going to do a very brief, how can I say, brief demonstration of what editing on WikiSource looks like. Some say it is very, very, very low effort or low entry, but you just click on a selected text, and I'll click on the proofread of the month to demonstrate the things that I need to show you. And this is what we call the editing interface. Some call it the proofreading interface. So we'll talk about the editors and basically what you see. So the book has been brought, and it has been brought into WikiSource, and now we want to contribute to it. So a standard book has the usual contents and pages, cover page, the preface, the recto, the verso part. There is that status that this book needs to be proofread or indexed. Then we see its metadata here, the title, the authors, the year of publication, what is the format in which we see it now, PDF, what is its progress when it comes to this interface, and has it been transcluded, yes or no. And then down here are the pages. Now with WikiSource, You know, you can say this thing has 920 pages, but the truth is, it's like maybe 900 pages of content. It's not a 920-page book because the rest probably have illustrations that weren't numbered. Some pages have appendices, and all that sort of thing. So this numbering might not be very accurate. So we normally say, go and check out the scan. And I say, okay, I want to proofread this. I simply click on this. Green means it has been proofread, it has been validated, and somebody has said, I agree that what the image has and what the OCR gave me are actually correct. So let me pick any at random because that means it hasn't. And I'm just trying. This is just a demo. So this is the editing interface. And there's the OCR button here. And so in some, it will give you something that is already done, pre-fade, but in this one it did. So what normally you see the scanned copy on your right hand side, and then the OCR, which is here, the one that you're going to edit on the left hand side. And your job is simply to look, format, correct, provide, because the OCR is not that reliable. It might render some letters looking very funny. So you do that, you check. So this is what I'm not going to, I don't know. This is not Maori, but it's from New Zealand, so I don't know. And how do you call that up? At times, if you don't see this automatically brought, I think our friends who work in digitization are familiar with this. We are using the Google OCR, but if you have handwritten texts, things that the machine is not going to be able to read, then we use, I don't know if its name is Transcribus or Transcribers. So that is what you use. This will come in handy when you have digitization projects and you want to bring them into WikiSource, or you actually want to use these OCRs in other projects. So the editing interface is very simple. It's a what you see is what you get, yeah? Some also want to do source. There are things that you can't readily put in, like for example, you see this number 10. How is it aligned and how do I make it bold in the center, in that size? Where is its positioning in the header? So this is what we call the editing interface. Yeah. And also editing and proofreading, it's the same. So when we go deeper into WikiSource, and I think Ingrid has some very grand plans for us in the future, you will see all these buttons at the bottom. What does red mean? It means that this thing no work has been done. Or if I put lilac, okay, something is going on that I don't understand with this page is problematic. Or I put yellow and I say, I corrected, everything is correct. Please, somebody come and correct my work, yeah? But that's not what we are here for today. This is a bit technical, and there's going to be a part for it to be technical. So this is the full extent of when you are interacting with the WikiSource interface. This is the full extent of it. Obviously, the other projects like Wikimedia Commons, how do you take something from there and bring it into WikiSource? That is part of the plans for the future. Is there any question before we proceed to the next bit of the discourse, if I might put it that way?
Okay, nothing from me other than to say if there's anyone on this call that would like to get to know WikiSource and to start running with programs, and so that could learn it and could train others on it, please please put your hand up to volunteer. I think it'll be really, it's exciting. It's very exciting. And it is one aspect of getting involved with Wikipedia, well, with the Wikimedia projects, because you're not limited to Wikidate, Wikipedia, and the One Lib One Ref campaign. There's a home for everyone in in the Wikimedia projects, and this might be your forte, or where you can join in. And I see I've got one volunteer already.
It's very encouraging to hear. And even before we move on to the opportunities, I'd like to re-echo what Ingrid has said. For very many of us, our introduction to the wiki world is through Wikipedia. It doesn't matter which language Wikipedia, but through Wikipedia. Then along the way, we realize that it is a very harsh and hostile environment for some. It can be discouraging, it can be malevolent, because you're dealing with people out there who do not even know you. And even when you're told to assume good faith, it's too far gone to assume good faith. But away from external factors, then you realize that, you know what? I'm actually not interested in reading, in researching, in writing. My prose isn't that good. I don't know how to cite or anything. And then you find that you are interested in taking notes and transcribing. So WikiSource is also another area or a project in which you can contribute to. You can contribute your expertise. It can be something that, offers responsibility for your interest, and there are a number of ways in which you can get involved. So Wikipedia is not for everyone, just like everyone is not suited for Wikipedia. So let us just briefly touch on the opportunities that librarians have. But strike out the word librarians. Let us look at it as information professionals, because we have archivists, for example, who can help us select the material, who can guide us when it comes to digitization, who are able to give us the metadata and access to resources. So we will refer to ourselves as information workers from here on. So Ingrid, this is for you and for Liasa. I would like to bring the following things to your attention. These are some areas, in which I'm challenging Liasa and everyone here to be able to put their best foot forward to show cause, So there's the area of projects. There are digitization projects. As noted in the underrepresentation of the content and the languages, it could be that, the raw material, the primary sources exist, but they've not yet been digitized and therefore brought to our attention, and they fulfill all the inclusion criteria. So there are digitization projects. You can contribute to that. Or somebody might come with a work and they say, I lack the hardware to make this thing go forward. So this is something that we can engage in. The Wikimedia Foundation offers grants and funds for digitization projects, and even I think the British Library, under its Endangered Archives program, is offering funds for digitization projects that even allow you to not just buy equipment, but retain it after the project has ended. Then there are projects that come up for proofreading and validating, that technical thing that I was showing you, where you can decide and say, you know what? As librarians who speak Xhosa or Zulu, we have decided that we have seen these texts, and therefore we are going to not only proofread, but validate them. And then we looked at the categories. So you can create a portal for specific topics. There are many subgenres, very many themes under South Africa and its literary heritage that have probably not been brought to light because maybe the people that were responsible for creating them are not aware. They do not have the same experience as you because you live there and you're more in touch with this kind of thing or with this kind of content. So you can create a portal for specific topics. We saw we had only 13 categories. We can include some more categories because these are the things that we do every day. Then for those in academia, we want to know a sounding board, what's going on in the community, how do we engage in advocacy, how do we bring this situation to your attention. You can analyze and improve existing WikiSource projects. WikiSource projects are basically, they're as simple as they are hard to come up and conceptualize for. You can simply say, as we are doing WikiSource project medicine in South Africa, and for example, there's a book talking about herbs, traditional medicine, remedies, and practices. And we say we are concentrating on these books that talk about this kind of thing. Or we are going to concentrate on books that talk about South African music. For those especially who have audio in their archives, you can transcribe these audios as long as they fit their inclusion criteria. So you can analyze, you can create, and you can improve existing WikiSource projects. Then you can also examine successful collaborations as you are trying, as you're finding your way in that world. What did so and so do? How is it similar to our situation? What are some of the best practices we can afford? Who can we bring in? What can we tweak? So you can examine successful collaborations and present this hopefully at the next LIASA conference. But you can also investigate WikiSource's impact on education and especially research. Remember, we looked at the fact that it is related and supports so many other Wikimedia projects that we actually use, that some of the content on these projects would not have been possible if it were not a spark of inspiration from WikiSource. So, for example, the text that we see in Afrikaans, what has been the impact of that? What is the reach? What are the strategies that we can use to further this agenda? So please, these are some areas, especially for our academics who are looking for concepts. There's the area of case studies. And then there are also lessons to be learned, best practices to be adopted, habits to avoid, and practical engagement. So how do we use WikiSource's validation tool, for example? Do we know how to do it? We saw the editing interface. My things are always being flagged. How do I go about using it? Creating and editing OCR files. Now I'm involved in a digitization project. When I upload it to Wikimedia Commons, what next? How do I know where to import it? What kind of file extension is needed to make this come to fruition? So that is something that is an opportunity to learn. And then there's also the creation and management of WikiSource portals. It's the very same thing as creating our portals, reorganizing information. Some of this information might be there, but it is hidden. It was badly categorized, wrongly attributed under a certain category, or maybe it is in Wikimedia Commons, but it has not been brought into WikiSource. So that is an opportunity for us. So again, we are back to our slide. These are the potential areas of engagement. Not everyone has to transcribe. Not everybody has to proofread. Not everybody has to validate. But if we work together, we are able to make these projects work. I could have a scanner here, or if you call me, I can demonstrate and say, when you have such a book, this is how you deal with it. Yeah. Or I could give you space to do that sort of thing. Or I could offer you internet meals, whatever it is, but there are potential areas of engagement broadly categorized into 4. There are the content-related opportunities. There's digitization and proofreading. There's creating and editing WikiSource pages. There's transcribing and validating texts. Then there's adding metadata and categorization so that things are visible and are accessible and placed in a place where they are easy to see. Then there's organization and maintenance. Under indexing and categorizing, things might not have been included yet, or things may have been put under something else altogether. Then there's creating and managing WikiSource namespaces, someone who was telling us about the language, and then developing and maintaining library-related templates. You know, in the world of technology, it is not only human beings that edit Wikimedia projects. Even machines, people have bots that can edit. So you can come up with a template and a bot to ease work, yeah? And then we can also maintain consistency and quality standards. How? Through the neutral point of view. There's community engagement, like this one, for example. There's participating in WikiSource discussions and forums. You saw the portal for the WikiSource community. You can follow some hot topics, or you can contribute, or you can seek support and help there. Because some of us live in places where the only barrier to our contribution is a lack of quality support. Then you can host and participate in WikiSource events like this one. Then you can also develop and lead training sessions. I'm glad to say that we have been able to develop some customized learning resources, and we are going to be sharing them with Liasa, and it can translate, you can translate, or you can tweak them to suit your specific audience, because our needs are not homogeneous, they are not uniform. And then for special projects, we can partner with libraries and archives for content donation. Hey, I remember, I saw this manuscript somewhere and I've checked it's in the public domain. My boss has said it is okay. We have a digital scanner. Come and do the necessary. Yeah. You can develop and suggest WikiSource collections for subjects or languages. I think those who are into content lists, this will appeal to you. We can create WikiSource-based educational resources, like I've mentioned. You can conduct research, and you can develop tools and scripts for WikiSource. And these are some of the ways in which you can find support. There's a global WikiSource Telegram group. There is a WikiSource mailing list in which there are many updates, what's happening in that frontier, what has changed, is there a debate that we need to contribute to. There's the WikiSource mailing list, but there's also a WikiSource in Africa WhatsApp group, because we discovered that our challenges are very unique, and therefore we would need a designated space in which to contribute. So Ingrid, I hand back to you.
Okay. Yeah, I've learned quite a lot in this session. I mean, I knew about WikiSource, but I didn't know all the detail. So this is really, really great. And I see that we have some colleagues who have put their hands up. So I've noted down names, but I will sort of coordinate with the Liasa National Office, and we will definitely be passing the slides on. It doesn't have to wait for me to do anything, guys. This is the one thing about Wikipedia and the Wikimedia projects. You don't have to wait for someone to take the lead. You take the lead. It's how you can make your contribution. Alice is Alice. We need to sort of work out our next steps, what we're going to do. But I was hoping that there would be
We
somebody
are
from the National
willing,
Library,
we are
someone,
ready.
that someone from the National Library would be on the call. But I certainly, wearing my digital humanities hat, will share with the Digital Humanities Association. And yes, the recording of this will be out shortly, I guess. And there is the part one as well, and then Alice will in fact share her slides. I'm certainly looking for people to take the lead on this, and to run with it. We've got resources sitting in our libraries, sitting in our archives that could be that should be in the public domain. Obviously, it's to look at those inclusion criteria, and to see what we can do, and in the other South African languages as well, because there will be information. I mean, resources there that we can do. So this has been really, really brilliant, Alice. Thank you very, very much. What we need is, your people's interest, as you commenting, interest and some momentum. So looking for those volunteers. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Ingrid. I can assure you that you have all our support. We have very good, how can I say, very good editors, very good trainers, and you have some case studies. I would like to give you, let me declare my conflict of interest, but between September and October, we actually carried out a WikiSource course here in Uganda, and we approached library schools and said, please nominate students who are either offering records and archives management or library and information science, because from their training, they would be able to appreciate the nuances of WikiSource and to see how the things they are taught actually apply in the Wikimedia movement. And their teachers recommended around 10 of them. And I was quite humbled by what I saw. The amount of interest and self-motivation that was there was something that was commendable. So at the end of it all, we had, I think, like proofread as many as 6 books, and we will be celebrating WikiSource's 24th birthday. WikiSource's birthday on the 24th of November. But even if it's not for us on the continent, there are very brilliant and supportive individuals within the WikiSource user group. And Africa is very much not the last frontier, but it's uncharted territory. very many people have been discouraged because of the reception they received on Wikipedia. I'm not saying that this is the hills that you run to refuge or your fortress in the day of distress, but it is something that is worth considering if you are interested in this kind of thing. So Ingrid, you have all our support and our resources.
Thank you very, very much. I mean, a little later in November, in fact, we together with I don't know if you want to say something about AFLIA and the virtual conversations between African Wikimedians and the African library sector. There's conversations coming up
Yes.
regionally on how libraries and how libraries and Wikipedia can actually work together. So I guess this is also an ad for the upcoming conversations, online conversations. I don't know if you want to
Yes.
say a few words.
Oh, yes, I do. So a number of us are familiar with authority control and basically how can I say, how an author or somebody is categorized and where we can find them a comprehensive and verifiable list of their works. And authority control is represented on Wikipedia and even in WikiSource, by the way. But when it comes to our individuals or our work, so the output of the content, the authority control is actually not pointing to anything in Africa. It is pointing to something out of Africa. And that information can be true, but it might not be as easily accessible or maybe easy to interpret as we might think that it is. So there's a project, AFLIA received part of the Knowledge Equity Grant. AFLIA was one of the third round grantees, and the Knowledge Equity Fund is also something we can take advantage of. And AFLIA received some money, and now we will be working with Wikimedia Deutschland on how to create substantive authority control based on a platform known as Wikibase. But that is not only it, it's a bit technical and it involves catalogs and records on Koha and that sort of thing. And I'm glad to say that they've chosen the humanities as the starting point of it. But there are also conversations, not just about authority control, but representation, as we have seen here, between us as individuals working in the information sector in Africa and the Wikimedia movement, because there tends to be an antagonistic relationship fueled by a lot of misunderstanding. We know what we know and we are not moving from our corner. Even if you come, do not cross this line. That is normally the relationship. Never mind that we are mission aligned. We are at work when we are giving out information. But anyway, there is a series of conversations that are going on between AFLIA, African Wikimedians, as well as just us, us, how do I call us, everyday people. And I want to share the link with you so that you can also be a part of this conversation. You can tune in. The conversations are going to be held in a regional system. I think the one for West Africa was held yesterday. But there are other regions coming up. There's the North, there is the South, there is also the East, involving people that talking about their specific experiences, opportunities they see, challenges, and just their parallel existence. So I've shared a link with you about how from which you can register for any session. There'll be some that are dedicated to Francophone Africa, but there are also some that are in English, and you can tune in, time and internet connectivity allowing. Let your voice be heard, say what it is, bring these questions to light, share your experiences, share your information, and may all of us be winners at the end of the day. Thank you.
Yes, that's right. So the 28th of November is the one for Southern Africa, with moderator and panelists. And eventually AFLIA will be producing a white paper on the coming out of this. So hopefully we'll see you at that if you sign up for the 28th. Okay. I am one of the panelists for the
Even
for the
Chairman Bobby will
28th,
be
and
there.
Alice is actually moderating the East African section. Mateti is also on the Southern African call. So if you go to this page, you'll get all the information, and you'll see what we're trying to do to incorporate Wikipedia into the African libraries ecosystem, and let's see how that goes. All right, I think that's probably it. We are going on for about 10 past 2. So thank you. Friday afternoon. I hope this was inspiring for a Friday afternoon. I guess we can stop if the recording hasn't stopped yet. It should be it should be it should be stopped.